How do I move from drama to empowerment? Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast.
I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler.
We're brothers,
We're therapists.
and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery.
Hey, Tyler, you ready to have some hard conversations?
Let's do it.
Let the Therapy Brothers podcast begin. Hey, bro, what's up?
Brannon, it's so good to see you alive.
It's good to be alive.
You just got back from Cambodia like a day ago.
Yeah, the jet lag is real. It's a real thing. Yeah, it was awesome. It was incredible, life-changing trip. So, you can't put it into words what it was like for us. So,
Yeah. It's the kind of thing where I can't wait to talk to you afterwards and actually hear all the details. And I'm sure there's plenty of things you experienced that will probably make its way into the podcast eventually.
Yeah. So, but it's good to be back. I'm glad to be here. Ready to get rolling. So
yeah, good. Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm sure our listeners are happy to have you back too, since they've been stuck with me for a couple of weeks.
Whatever. I think they were tired of me a little bit. So it's probably good to have a break.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's get into it today. We got a guest calling in. Hannah, welcome to the show.
Am I unmuted? I'm unmuted.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Hey,
glad
Hannah.
you're here.
Thank you.
Why don't you just introduce yourself, whatever parts of your story will be helpful for us to help you, and then ask your question. We'll get into it.
Okay. Oh boy. So I love listening to your podcast. I was listening to it, and there was one about drama, and it was about the triangle of drama, and you can play the victim, you can play the persecutor, you could play the rescuer. And I recognized myself playing those roles and my family members playing those roles. And I went on a trip with my sister, and I immediately recognized her going into like the persecutor role. And I was like, oh, this is normally when I would go into the victim role. And so I was like, okay, I'm not doing that. And so the way that I handled it, I had this discussion, and I was like, look, like, it's not okay. You can't talk to me like that. And we kind of took a break, and then we came back, and I was really glad because she was receptive to it, and it worked. I kind of had the same scenario with a friend, and she was not receptive, and it didn't work. And so anyway, I was just seeing this kind of play out in my life. And as I learned about the triangle of empowerment, I wanted to know, what are some skills? How can we go from being in that triangle of drama and turn our lives to living in that triangle of empowerment?
Great question. Yeah. So something I think just right off the bat, and then we'll kind of get into actually outlining. We probably need to outline the drama triangle again, and the new triangle of empowerment. Excuse me. Before we kind of get too deep into this, but I just want to say right off the bat that I love hearing that you took something and actually went and put it into practice. Like, that's one of the hardest things to do, and that awkward application of that practice it can be messy sometimes. And I just encourage you to, as you practice, make sure the measuring stick is not necessarily the outcome of what the other person does. Make sure the measuring stick is whether or not you stuck to the principles that you're learning. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
yeah.
in other words, being out of drama has nothing to do with the other person. Is that what you're saying, Tyler?
In a certain sense. I mean, obviously we're trying to stay out of drama, and we want to, for the sake of actually being able to work inside of our relationships more effectively. But yes, we only have control over our side of that drama triangle. And even if we do everything right, sometimes the other person wants to roll around in the mud puddle, and so even if you do everything right, if you're measuring success by what the other person does, you're probably going to be disappointed some of the time, and it'll be confusing because you were still doing it right.
Can I just Tyler, you just said something interesting. You call it trauma.
I did,
So,
man. I got all tongue twisted.
but if you think about that, if you mix triangle and drama, it equals trauma.
It
And
does.
there's actually an important point to that of, Hannah, if you think about, why do you go to drama? Why do you think you go to drama?
It's not my fault. I play the victim. Like, this is not right. I don't deserve this. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I play that role a lot. I just feel like the victim. Like, I didn't do anything to deserve this.
So notice what you said there. You said, I don't know. I don't know why I do. And that's how most people are. They unconsciously go to drama. And but here's another question for you. What does drama do for you? Like, why do we go to drama?
It doesn't help my life at all.
Right. But we all do it. So why do we do it?
Reinforces the story we're telling about ourselves.
It reinforces shame and all of the faulty core belief stuff. Like it
Maybe it
reinforces all of
validates
that.
us.
Okay. Yeah. Tyler, why do people go to drama?
I think the way I kind of view it is like we're operating on like this normal adult level of functioning, and then something happens, and it's usually tied to our attachments or our shame or our fear about being seen in some ways, or we sense that we're losing control, and then we drop into a child's way of trying to get our needs met. So I can go and turn and like it's like just like hanging out with like our nieces and nephews. What this happened like several months ago. I was playing with one of them. We're all kind of in a group, and she wasn't having the game go the way she wanted it to. So what did she do? She turned around and went over to the corner and folded her arms. Was like, right? Like, why did she do that? She was making a protest because she was feeling like she wasn't being seen and she was losing control over the situation. And so she was actually trying to get her needs met, but it didn't really serve in the big picture. It doesn't serve us well because we actually end up pushing people away. But most of the time it's a way of trying to, it's a non-vulnerable way of managing relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. So Hannah, think about Tyler's example there. The example was with a child. So as adults, we act like children all the time to try to get our needs met. And a lot of times it has to do with validation and attachment and all of those things. And it's actually pretty awesome that we have these ways to try to get our needs met. But the problem with it, what's the problem with it?
It doesn't. I think one of the things that I learned and that helps me manage my shame about the dysfunctional ways that I've handled things is that I say, all right, maybe these things, I grew up in this dysfunctional family and these dysfunctional coping mechanisms with how I tried to handle things or get my needs met. Maybe they served me. Maybe they helped me then. Maybe they didn't. But that's what I had to do to survive that childhood. But now, and I created those coping mechanisms, but I can create new ones. I can create healthy ones. And that's what I want to do. I want to create healthy ones. I created something before, I can do it again, and I can figure out a healthy way and not a dysfunctional way to get those needs met.
Okay. So how do you become conscious of your drama and your unhealthy behaviors? Because a lot of people are unconscious of it, right?
Yeah. I think it starts for me, it started with awareness. And when I heard that podcast, just like being aware, like it just clicked. And I was like, I see it. And then once I become aware, I kind of start seeing it in other places. And then other people telling me stories, and I'm like, ooh, I think this is going
It's
on.
everywhere.
Yeah, I kind of start seeing it everywhere. And then I think it starts with awareness. And then the next step, applying. And that's where I'm kind of on rocky ground. I'm trying to figure out what to do.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, Brannon, what we ought to do because I think we're going to move into that, what to do pretty quickly here. I think what we need to do, just for the sake of our listeners, is let's get both triangles, like this drama triangle we've talked about in the past. Let's do a very, very quick overview of the three parts of that. And then let's get the other three parts of, the inverse of the drama triangle out there too, so people can at least have that language rolling in their heads while we talk. Does that sound okay?
Sure.
So when we talk about the drama triangle, we end up dipping into that child mode and we go into three different roles. The main primary role that most of us go through first is the victim role, where somebody has done something and we feel justified to be the victim. The victim tries to get their needs met by getting other people to do for them what they can and should do for themselves. And then there's a second role, which is the persecutor role. The persecutor role is the attack. It's the person who's going on the offense, blame, love to blame. And then the third role is the rescuer role, which is I'm going to rescue the victim from whatever it is that they're struggling with. I'm going to do for them what they can and should do for themselves so that I can feel good about myself. And there's a dance that we do inside of ourselves and with other people with all three of those roles. So I might start at the victim role, and then maybe I'm talking to my wife and she drops into victim role. So then I move over to the rescuer. But then when I'm rescuing, I get upset and sort of like resentful. So then I become the persecutor, and then she stays in the victim, or she moves to the rescuer. And it's this dance of unhealthy connection that keeps us tied just close enough, but doesn't actually ever let us get real intimacy with each other. Right. So that's a quick version of that. Does that sound, am I missing anything? So one of the theories that's kind of come out, that's called the Cartman drama triangle, that's come out over the top of this is, well, what's the empowerment triangle then? And there's three different, for each of those roles of drama, there's actually a role of empowerment. And so for the victim, instead of being the victim, I've heard it called a couple of things. One is to become the thriver, which means you're taking accountability for your own choices and your own actions, or the creator. You need to be the one that's responsible to actually change the situation that you're in, rather than waiting for the world or other people to come and fix it. For the rescuer, that becomes, instead of the rescuer, you become the coach. So you can still give good advice. You can still be curious about what the other person's choices might be. But what you're doing is you're leaving accountability where it belongs, inside that relationship. And then the third role is for the persecutor. Instead of becoming the persecutor, there's probably some things that need to be said, but you can do it as the challenger rather than as the persecutor, which means that you're able to actually step in and still have boundaries, still have a voice, speak the things that need to be spoken. And those things are done out of the drama because you're not taking it personally, because you're not sucking people back and forth. And they're usually done with accountability and more vulnerability than you'd have in the drama triangle itself. So that was fast.
Yeah. Thanks, Tyler. That was good. I want to come back to what you're talking about, but I want to ask Hannah a question, and then come back to what you just went over, Tyler. Hannah, do you believe in God?
Yes.
Okay. So the empowerment triangle, what Tyler's talking about, there's a really important distinction between the two. And with drama and those three roles that he just went over, we're using the other person for validation, for okayness. We need them to do something. Persecutors forcing them to do something. A caretaker's drawing worth from an individual. A victim's trying to get power. We need the other person. In the empowerment triangle, and what Tyler just went over, in order to step into those roles, there's an element of surrender about not needing them, or not needing them to respond in a certain way or whatever. I can let go of that, and then I am an agent unto myself about how I show up in this world and what I want to create. So without that knowledge or understanding or relationship with some kind of something else that tells you that you're okay, it's really hard to not live a life in drama, because we're leaning on other people. Drama is another form. It's just codependency in many ways. It's over attachment to individuals. Is it, Tyler, would you say that too? That's important.
Yeah. As you're talking, Brandon, I was getting this image of like, if I'm getting into drama with somebody, according to what you just said, it's like I just threw this little tiny piece of like self-worth in the middle of the mud pit. And now there's two of us that have to go fight over that piece of self-worth with each other. And only one of us can walk out with it.
Yeah, that's drama.
Instead of what you're saying out of drama is, I know who I am, and I want relationship with you. And so I'm going to step into any of these three roles to do a few things to keep my self-respect while also pursuing relationship with you with integrity.
Right.
And that's what I think is missing in the drama triangle itself is that it lacks integrity and it lacks vulnerability and accountability.
Yep. I want to give an example. And Hannah, I want you to see, I want to see how you'll respond to this. So let's say I log on this morning and Tyler's like, oh, dang it. I was hoping you were going to die in Cambodia. Like you suck. Like I got to do this podcast with you again. Okay. So let's say he says that to me as I log on this morning. How do I avoid going to drama in that moment? What does that look like?
Oh, man. Ignore it? I don't know.
So think about it through a lens of attachment. Okay. So if I have healthy attachment with Tyler, I can avoid going to drama. If I have unhealthy attachment with Tyler, then I'm gonna go into drama, right?
Okay.
So here he is insulting me, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I seriously wish you would have died in Cambodia.
Right.
All right.
So what does healthy attachment look like?
Well, come on, man. Why are you saying that to me? Like, come on. I don't know. Holding him accountable, saying like, letting him know like, hey, that really upset me.
So my boundaries start on an internal basis, an internal level. Okay. So when Tyler says whatever he says to me, if I know that whatever he says has everything to do with him and nothing to do with me, then I'm able to listen to him. I'm able to say, oh, interesting. Like, why'd you say that? Like,
Did something happen over the last week?
Yeah. Who are you? Like, what's going on with you? Okay. But if I'm unboundaried and he defines me, then all of a sudden I start having all kinds of defensive reactions. My parts start coming up. Right. So where I'm reading into things and why would he say such a thing? And I start to take offense. Drama kicks in. Okay. Now, if Tyler says that to me, I wish you would have died in Cambodia. Does that have anything to do with me?
I mean, yeah.
Okay. How so?
It's about you. It's about you not being here.
Right. So let me rephrase that. Does that have anything to do with my self-worth?
No.
Does it have anything to do with whether I'm lovable or not?
No.
It has nothing to do with that. So if I know who I am and I know that I'm loved, Tyler can absolutely have those feelings, and that's okay. Now, he being rude to me, now he might be saying rude, horrible things, and I can step into my empowerment and say, knowing who I am, like I'm not trying to attack you. I'm just letting you know, saying those things to me doesn't work for me. So, and I might say, I don't know if I can do this episode with you today, and starting it that way, that doesn't work for me. That's all about me. If he's insulting me but I don't need to take offense. Now I make this sound so easy, don't I?
Yeah, but that's a skill. It's a skill.
Right.
It is a skill. I kind of going along with what you're saying, Brannon, and Hannah, you're asking these questions of like, how do I how do I actually work on this? Because I'm recognizing the drama, which by the way is the first step. And we'll get into some of the, we'll get into some other recipe kinds of things in a minute. But the fact that you're recognizing it is already like a massive step. It's the first step. Where Brandon's going with this is two things. And this is, I had this written on my page as soon as we started talking here. Two things that I do for myself when somebody comes and does this. So Brannon comes to me and is like, same thing, like, Tyler, like, you're worthless.
You suck,
man.
bro. You're worthless.
You suck. For me, there's two questions, not two questions, two statements. One's a question, one's a statement. As soon as he says that, my first question, and this is empowerment, is it I? Am I doing something that I need to take a look at? Not in a shame-based way, not in like, oh my gosh, I suck kind of way, but like, that's weird that he would say that to me. Did I do something? Now that's gonna be my first question back to him is, hey, I thought we were good. Like, what's going on, man? What are you doing? See how it comes back to what's your experience right now? Because I don't know. Like, I'm curious, is it I? And I'm willing to take ownership for the parts that are mine. I want to take ownership for the parts that are mine, but I will not take ownership for the parts that are not. And then the next statement after that later on is my response back to Brannon after I get curious with what his experience is this is I. So here's where I'm at. Like, this is how I'm taking it. I like what you said, Hannah, when Brannon was putting you on the spot a little bit. You actually gave some pretty decent responses. You know, it was like, you know, you were honest with your feelings, and this is I. This is where I stand right now. You know, so those two things kind of go together. It's accountability, both ends, curiosity with accountability, and then accountability in the response back.
I think accountability requires some knowledge of self and of knowing who you are. So like, I really like what you just said, Tyler. The is it I? If Tyler comes to me with some criticism or he's rude or whatever, and I don't know who I am, then I'm just, he's defining that. And that's scary because he's telling me I suck. He's telling me I'm not good enough. He's telling me, and that's scary. And so I'm likely to defend against that. Or I'm likely to drink it all in, which wouldn't be good for me either. So the is it I is me knowing me hearing from him, the feedback or criticism or whatever it is, you know, kind of taking a look at this and wondering, oh, maybe there is something that I need to clean up. Maybe there is something I need to change. Or maybe some of this is just about him and his day, and he had a really hard day, and I care about him, and that's that, right? But there is a understanding of self. You see that? That's key to empowerment.
I think I got to sneeze. Nope, it's gone. Okay, sorry. I like what you just said. You didn't say this word, but whenever you said like let me take this. I like to break things down into like steps in my head. Like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And what you just said, the concept of what you guys just described to me, I'm like, okay, let's take inventory. Let me take inventory of me. Let me take inventory of you. And then let me state my boundary.
Yep.
Right.
Beautiful.
So your sister's persecuting you, like, Hannah, blankety, blankety, blank. I don't know what she says, right? Your sister's persecuting you. What does taking inventory look like?
What did I do? You know, what's my role here? Did I do something? And what's my experience? You know, what did I do to contribute to her experience? And then what experience is she having that I'm not aware of that's contributing to this?
Okay, that's excellent.
And then, all right, now I took inventory. Now I'm going to say, you know, I'm not okay with this.
This is me. Yeah, this is where I'm at. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not okay with this can be said in different ways. It can be said in drama, or it can be said not in drama. The energy is in which that is delivered, in which you're coming from. Now, she might hear it as drama no matter what.
Uh-huh.
Right? So how do you know you're not in drama when you say, I'm not okay with this?
Ooh. Um, in the conversation we had, I think that her emotions were really elevated, and mine were not. I was, cool as a cucumber. I was just like, hey, it's really not okay with me. You can't talk to me like that.
Mm-hmm.
And she stayed elevated. And as we discussed later, she was like, well, I felt like that was really condescending that you were, remaining so calm. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm really not trying to be condescending. She's like, that's how you talk to a kid. And I was like, well, yeah, because I said, if my emotions are up here, or if your emotions are up here and I meet you here, does does that solve anything? Does that resolve our problem? No. So I'm trying to bring you back down here because I want to be in control of my emotions. I don't want them to be controlling me. I want to because she's like, well, can I not have emotions? I was like, well, no, you can have emotions. I have emotions, but I still want to regulate them and kind of
Mm-hmm.
do all of these things, and I don't want them to be controlling me. So we kind of took a break and we had that conversation after the break because I told her, I was like, hey, it's really not okay to talk to me like this. And she didn't like it. And so I was like, I'm going to go take a shower. I'm going to do this. I'll be back. And when I came back, we were able to talk a little bit. And that's kind of how that went from there. And it went well. She ended up apologizing, and it went well afterwards.
Yeah. I was watching a meme yesterday about road rage, and this I mean, it's wasting my time. But this guy, it was like horrible road rage incidents or whatever, and this dude was just like outside this car just yelling and screaming and like pounding on the, and this other dude was just like sitting in his car calm as can be, kind of smiling and looking forward and just like just fine, just nothing nothing was wrong. And the more he sat there, the more the other guy just amped up, right? He was looking for drama, he was looking for a fight. um and I think a lot of times that's what it looks like is we're calm in the storm, we're grounded, we're at peace, and able to just stay steady when there's turbulence all around us. That's what empowerment looks like. And somebody who's used to you taking the bait with drama is going to freak out a little bit or going to amp up their drama because they're like, what? You're supposed to like be here with me having this whole thing. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so good
Yeah.
job staying steady, Hannah. That's an awesome story.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you.
And knowing that it will amp up a little bit with people that are used to a certain pattern. Once you start to change your side of the pattern, it will amp a little bit. Drama loves company. Like drama, it's like the crabs in a bucket idea. If you're down in the mud puddle getting all dirty and messy and you look around and you're like, I want to everybody's get in here. Like so it's like especially if you're used to doing that. If I'm in the mode of my sister invites me to the drama and then I'm like, well, it's her fault. Yeah, you're being this that. And you don't do that. It almost is scary, like attachment wise. She's like, uh-oh, like
Where's Hannah?
if we don't interact this way, like, yeah, where'd she go? Like, so the only way I know to get her to come back is to amp my response until she joins me. And at that point, you have to hold on until the response subsides, and then you join back and say, hey, like just like you did, it was a perfect example of, hey, the tone's different. We can still talk now. Right. And
Mhm.
I wasn't trying to be, because you very well could have intentionally being kind of like holier than thou rescuer-ish, like I'm only going to talk to you as soon as you can't be a child anymore, right? Like,
Yeah.
but that wasn't your intention, and you cleared that up with her, and then you can move forward. So you actually did really good work there.
Thank you.
So I think Brannon hit really hard kind of the deeper part of dealing with drama, which is the continued work on self. Like the more you grow into yourself, the more you know who you are, the less likely you are to go into drama. Can I walk you through like a recipe really quickly, since that's what you like?
I'd love that.
Okay. So, first step in the recipe you've already got, but we'll go a little deeper with it really quickly. Recognize the drama. And you're going to recognize it in a couple of ways. One is recognize it in yourself. and recognize it in your physiology and in your thoughts, in addition to your behavior. So you might notice drama before you even say something you regret. If you kind of feel like, you know what, like I know when I'm going into drama with my wife, my jaw clenches, my face starts to flush, my neck gets tight. And sometimes she'll be the one that says it before I do. She's like, "Uh-oh, Tyler, like your jaw's clenched." You're like, I know now if I recognize my jaw clenched that I better not open my mouth because it will be something I regret.
Okay.
Right. So each part of the drama will actually come with its own form of physiology a lot of the time. So maybe the victim feels heavy and pressed on, or I feel this kind of like weight on my shoulders, this emptiness in my chest. It's weird. My rescuer actually kind of feels like puffed up and prideful a lot of the time.
Mm.
Kind of like that holier than thou feeling, which I've been accused of by Brannon several times.
That's like his. I won't say it.
He's gonna try to invite me to drama right now. So, so so that's the first thing is recognition, and recognize physiology, thoughts, and behaviors in both yourself and the other person, right?
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to give you this, and it's going to be really hard to do in the moment, but the more you practice it, it becomes automatic. So go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah.
Little side note. I made the mistake, I would say, maybe, of teaching all my children about drama triangle. So now I'm being reflected back all the time of, "Oh, Dad, you're playing the victim, huh?" Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, look at you, martyr, victim. Apparently, I'm the martyr and the victim a lot, which
you play
I
the
am.
rescuer, the victim. That's so funny. That's awesome. That's a great way to stay mindful, Brandon.
I guess so.
Oh, all right. Second step after the recognition of the drama is list your options. So, and this means you need to come up with 6 options. Okay.
Okay.
3 of them are already there for you: persecutor, victim, and rescuer. Those are
Mm.
options. Okay. But list those out. You can play any one of those 3 roles right now, but now you've got to come up with at least 3 other potential like options or responses that you can give in that moment. So let's break this down for a second with your sister. You've got all the 3 that you could do: go jump into drama with her, rescue her, or attack her, or turn yourself into the victim. What are 3 other options that you had in that moment?
Challenge her. Coach her.
How would you have challenged her?
Ooh. Hold on, I gotta think about this. If it's normally a persecutor challenging, uh, I might have challenged her a little. The way that I did, so she told this story about me, and she thought, well, you don't have street smarts, you put us in danger, and that kind of gave her the validation. That story that she had about me gave her the validation to treat me badly. I was doing something to her, and so then she could treat me badly. So I think later I challenged her ideas, and I gave her a few examples of, hey, I actually do have street smarts, and here's a few examples. Okay, but so I could be I could challenge her, I could coach her, or creator, like create something new. Well, we finally got into our Airbnb, so that was our new, and that's where I decided to have the conversation. Those are the 3 options.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I think I kind of did all 3.
Yeah, it sounds like you did. I mean, this example that we're using, you actually did kind of through the whole process, you ended up doing all 3 of those things in some ways.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But that's the question is okay. So you came up with those, and you could come up with 4 more if you wanted. Those, you went with the 3 that are kind of the empowerment triangle part of it. But that creator part might have been, I'm going to use my own choice to take a time out, or I'm going to use my own choice to do this, or to set this boundary, or to do that boundary, or to just listen to her, or to try to show empathy, or, so you could come up with like 6-10 things that are options of what you could do. Right. The next step is that once you have those options out in front of you, you have to assess your congruency. which means your value system. Out of all of these options, which of these options will still be okay for me to look myself in the mirror when I'm done? Right. So now all of a sudden, probably those first three, victim, persecutor, and rescuer, sort of go out the window. And now you look at the rest of them and say, okay, of these ones, which of them most line up with my values? Right.
Can I do little side note?
Yeah.
Timeouts, like as you're going through this, Tyler, it's not realistic of in the moment to be like, okay, I'm now listing 6 options. Now I'm assessing my congruency. Now, all of these principles are awesome. When it comes to your emotions being regulated and walking through this process in the moment with your sister, that's why a timeout, like if you really want to practice getting out of drama, right when you're about to jump into it, just say, hey, I'm going to take a break. Like
I want to give you a good
10,
response.
I'm going to take 20 minutes. I'll be back, but I'm not going to. So when you feel that thing, that those emotions in your throat, in your gut, in your whatever, like Tyler said, become conscious of it. Instead of going directly into this process, go into a timeout, practice some mindfulness, and then go through the process.
Yeah, that's great, Brannon. I'd also say that a lot of times this stuff that I'm teaching right now will be stuff that you do afterwards, but it's still important to do afterwards because it preps you for the next time. And if you do it enough, eventually it's like, I know now when I go to certain places that there's going to be the exact conversation that I know is coming. And now I've already got my 6 options that have been narrowed down to 2 options, 3 options. It's like, am I in the mood to listen today? Am I in the mood to set boundaries? Am I in the mood to help try to solve problems? Like, what's going to be the best thing for my situation right now? So now when I get in my car for a long drive to go somewhere and the topic of something comes up, whatever that is, one of the age-old family fights, I'm already queued up to know how to stay out of drama for that. Whereas years ago with my wife, that would be an instant fight for 2 hours, right? So that's a good thought, Brannon. But it comes with practice. So Hannah, out of the things that you listed with your sister, which of those feel like they line up with your values the best?
Coach.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I did the most of.
And how would you coach in a way that doesn't sound condescending?
With empathy. I've been there. I mean, we've grown up in the same family, the same dysfunction. So I think it was also really big for me. I was really proud because, practicing these kinds of things are difficult, with friends or, the outside world, but with someone who you've practiced dysfunction with your entire life, that's a hard one to stop.
Yeah.
And so, but I think because we've also kind of practiced that dysfunction together our whole lives, it was like a big, like, whoa, what's going on? And I could be like, hey, look, like, I understand how you're feeling. Like, I get it. And like, we've done this dance before. And I know, just to be empathetic, I think.
Okay. So the coaching isn't necessarily giving a bunch of advice. It's laced with empathy.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Excellent. So that's probably your best option that you've kind of come to. The next step after that is to acknowledge the risks of any of the options that still feel good. So what are the risks if you just listen? What are the risks if you try to coach? What are the risks if you offer empathy? What are the risks both to you and to the other person with your response?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you acknowledge the risk and you know it's there and you can tolerate it, then that's an option that's still worth keeping. If you can't tolerate the risks, you're not really going to do it anyway, so you might as well get rid of it. Right?
Yeah.
And then the last part is to remember to own your own choice. Choose the best option, and as soon as you choose, get ready to start over at the top. Because it's probably, especially if you're working with somebody who's had a pattern that's been established, they're probably going to press on your response, and so you're going to cycle through that over and over again. So does it make sense?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on any of this stuff, Hannah?
I can't wait to use them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I also read a book called Crucial Conversations, and I think it's a lot about this. So this is a lot of kind of emotional regulation, and let me make sure it helps you kind of go through a process similar on assessing your options. What's going to be your best option? What outcome do you want from it? And how to go from there. And then I think that's interesting too, like, especially, get ready to have to make your option again, because you're going to have to, and sometimes you do, sometimes it's like, oh, let me do this at one after the next. And maybe in that circumstance with my sister too, maybe that's exactly what happened. Was I was like, okay, I did this one didn't work, let me try this one. So I think maybe that's why I'm like, oh, I think I kind of played all of those roles, because I was like, well, I don't know if this one's working that well. Let me hop on over to the next one. I'm not sure I assessed the risk of all of my options before I jumped in.
Sure. Which again, like Brannon's saying, in a moment you're going to be like, you don't have time to do that. That's going to be probably done in the aftermath. But once you've got it down, you're going to, oh yeah, there's a reason why I told myself I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to do this one instead, or whatever. Like,
yeah.
Drama, just to kind of summarize this a little bit, it's really cool because it encompasses like everything that we do. It brings into play your attachment wounds, your relationship with God, your relationship with self, how well you regulate your emotions, how well you're conscious of yourself, what kind of communication skills do you have, and so to be empowered and to step into this, it takes a lot of work. There's a lot underneath this, and there's also a lot of dysfunction that we all have, that we automatically go into this drama. And when somebody starts to get empowered and live out of drama, that to me is recovery, whatever we call recovery. That to me is somebody who knows themselves, who is strong, who is empowered. And so, yes, this recipe Tyler's giving, practicing it again and again, it's going to have deeper effects than just having better relationships. You're going to know yourself better. You're going to trust yourself. You're going to love yourself more because you're acting in self-compassion. And it's an awesome therapeutic process to start to live out of drama for yourself. You're actually going to get to know God better. Because yeah, drama is important. It's fun to talk about it because it brings in all of these things. And it's a really good training ground for recovery. So, did that summarize it?
Yeah.
What else is on your mind, Hannah? We're getting close on time here. Is there anything else pressing or other thoughts?
No, I think this has been amazing and helpful. And yeah, I've been doing this self-work for a long time. And I'm glad to be here, to have this, awareness, and to be in a place where I'm getting there. I'm getting to use use all of these. So it's great.
Anna, there's nothing better for us than to hear somebody who listened to an episode and then actually had an experience with your sister and in your life, and of like, oh, like I learned this thing and now I'm applying it to my life. Man, I love to hear that. The people like you that actually apply what, I mean, me and Tyler, we have a lot of words. We say a lot of things, but to actually go apply it makes me really happy. And it just shows that you're humble, that you're willing to work, you're willing to self-reflect. So thank you.
Yeah, I also want to thank you, Hannah. I had kind of a weekend where there wasn't a lot of this present. And so for you to show up on the show with the energy that you showed up with today, the energy of I'm moving forward, I'm taking accountability for my own life, I'm empowered. Like I feel it from you that you are empowered, even though you're still learning and growing. And it was refreshing to get that this morning on the call. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. I was able to do it because of you guys. I mean, it was just the timing was crazy. I think that's divine that I heard the podcast. Here's an opportunity to apply it. I applied it and I did. After that conversation with my sister, I can't tell you how amazing and empowered I felt. It was
Awesome.
it's like nothing I've experienced before. So thank you guys.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you to our listeners for being here, and hopefully you're getting some value out of this. If you are getting some value and you want to throw a shout out to Hannah, the best way to do that is through our review process, because that's about the best way she could go and see some feedback, or you can send it to us and we try to pass it along. But thank you for being here. Hannah, thank you. You guys have a great day.
See you guys.